Hey gang, we're on our way to Pennsylvania and then to Ohio to get the parts for the Studebaker and spend a little time with our family that lives up in Pennsylvania. Currently we are at a rest stop. We just crossed over into North Carolina. This is Ollie. Ollie's on drugs right now. You know, dogs get stressed out when they travel, when they get sick. So he's on some sort of drugs right now. And we are enjoying, let me just show you, we've been driving mostly in the rain. We got to the state line of, almost to the state line of Georgia, and it just started raining and raining and raining. And we've seen a variety of accidents. You know, it's always dangerous on the interstates, and having rain is not helping us at all. But we're making decent time. Again, we're at a rest area, and my wife she's currently off using the restroom, but she is also crocheting while we're driving, so she can get some of that stuff done. So I'll give some more updates as we move forward, but we're on our way. New River Gorge National Park and Preserve Visitor Center Bridge Overlook 1 mile. So we've been to that before, where you can go down below, see how much we can see from where we're at. I know it's hard to tell, but we are in West Virginia right now, and this is a scenic overlook area. And I know it's really hard to get the depth from this, but man, these hills and valleys are just amazing to see. And we tend to forget about these parts of the country where we have these hills and valleys and all this nature around us. Here you can see where they've cut back the the mountain there, all the rock, where they had to cut it away for the highway to come in. But just really beautiful land up here, and the temperature is pretty nice. So it's been like 68, 69, 70 degrees. So we're enjoying the ride. It's taking a little bit longer than we expected because we had had to take some detours. There was some crashes, a whole bunch of crashes today, and thankfully we weren't involved in any of those. And we're not there yet. We still actually have a couple hundred miles to go, but we had to stop and let the dog use the facilities. Mother Nature called him. So he's going to get some water, and then we're going to load back up and continue the journey. Well, I'm ready to get on the road and go get the Studebaker fenders. So I want to show you something that's kind of interesting. If you ever saw the movie All the Right Moves, this house right there was used in that movie. If you remember the coach's house being destroyed, yeah, that is the house. But I've got to go get some gas, fill up the Suburban. I have a great story that I'm going to tell later on about a problem we had that almost really messed up the trip bad. But I gotta go get some gas and some coffee and head to Ohio. Yay. So it appears that I'm passing through Doylestown. I am on highway or road 585, and we are probably maybe 10 minutes away from meeting the parts seller. I'm hoping he lets me do some filming while I'm there so I can showcase what he has, and we can just, you know, get a look at everything. I can say that I was, well, not surprised, let's say, but disappointed that when we arrived, or I got gas this morning near where we were staying, that the local gas stations are selling gas for $3.99 a gallon for basic unleaded gas. So after traveling across the border to Ohio, I discovered that gas immediately was like $3.58 a gallon, and then the gas went down to $3.31 further west. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Pennsylvania has higher taxes on their gas because they go out of their way to make sure their roads are in really bad condition. I think that's how that works. The more you pay, the worse the roads are. But let's see how this goes. I'm getting closer to the destination, and I'm also going to try to meet up with a friend of mine that I went to high school with. He lives about 20 minutes away from the parts guy. So let's see how that goes. Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. As many of you know, I'm on the road. We made a road trip to Pennsylvania to get some Studebaker parts, visit with family, and I also made a trip over to Ohio to get some more Studebaker parts. Now, when we got here, it was a Thursday night, and we ran into some problems with the vehicle, the Suburban that I have. Now, this is a 2007 Chevy Suburban, but the engine is a 2008. Not that that should make much difference. Let me show you what's going on and what I'm going to have to do to fix it before we can go back. So, let's have a listen. Okay, it started, but the problem is the crank position sensor. I took it to Advanced Auto Parts and AutoZone, and both confirmed that it was a crank position sensor. So I picked up a new one from Advanced Auto Parts. It's not that big a part, may not be too difficult to change on earlier models, but this one's going to be a bit different. So thankfully my brother-in-law has some equipment, I have some tools, so I'm going to do a video on the road. Let's get started. Well, I have it up on ramps, and probably the most important thing to do is disconnect the battery. The negative terminal is back there. I don't know if I can get easy access to that. The positive is right here, but ideally you need to disconnect one of those, and most people would do the ground. So I don't know yet. I think maybe I'll just do the positive and be done with it. Okay, I played it safe. I was able to get the 10mm wrench underneath here and get on that, and then grabbed it with a pair of needle nose pliers and pulled it up, and so the ground is disconnected. So the next thing is I got to get underneath it and take the starter loose, and I think from what I've seen those should be 13mm bolts, and the starter needs to come down, and the crank position sensor is above the starter and going into the block. So we'll see what I can do with that. Okay, a little hard to film under here, but the starter's right here. There's 2 bolts on the bottom of the starter. Those are 13mm. So I've got some extensions and ratchet. Let's see if I can't get those out. Now the idea is you should be able to
set the starter slightly to the side to give you access to the crank position sensor. So there's one bolt. There's the other bolt. Now, see what kind of room I have to get the starter back. If I can reach through around the frame or not. Little snug. Power cable's probably going to fight me. I may have to take that power cable off all the way. Yeah, that might be a possibility. I can get to it reaching through the frame. I'm assuming that's probably a 12 or 13 millimeter. I don't know. There is a catch here on the side of the frame. Maybe if I took that loose, I could move the cable around. Yeah, there's a bolt on top of the frame, so let me see if I can get that. Maybe I can get this out of that little clip and be able to move it around. All right, I got the clip loose, or opened up, I should say. Yeah, that's not really helping. So without disconnecting the power from the starter or the power cable, I was able to reach up through here and push it up into the rear. If you'll look, you can see right there, the tan looking piece is the crank sensor. Hopefully you can see that. There is a 10 millimeter bolt on that, and there's also a clip that snaps onto it. You can probably maybe see the tab right there. So I have to get that clip off to get the connector off to get to the bolt, which is right behind it. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's hard to, I think I'm looking right at the bolt in that corner. So I have to get that clip off without destroying it and then get that bolt out. I was able to get the clip loose. I used my extensions to get some leverage so I could push them up and get a hold of the edge of that clip and then flex it off. Now what I need to do is come in from the side over here behind the wheel on top of the frame with the extensions, and should be able to, let's see, oh, there it is, get on that bolt. So right there, you can see, hopefully you can see the chrome of the socket. So I need to get that bolt out and then figure out how to get my hand up in there so I can wiggle the crank sensor out, because the crank sensor has this long section here with an O-ring on it that has to push in. So I may have to get behind that tab or something with a screwdriver to help push it out. But let's get that bolt out and go from there. Alright, so I got that bolt loose. I can turn the extensions here. Oh, wow, you got a bird's eye view of that bolt. Coming right at you. Okay, I'm try to get this up and pry on that sensor. I felt it move. Moved a little bit. You know, this is probably one of the hardest things to film.
I'm gonna have to see if I can get it out, but my head will be blocking most of this. So, well, we're out of luck on this one. Got it out. You can see it's got a longer section here in the middle, and this one is completely different. If you look inside where it has the little tabs, there's 3, and then a little post kind of thing sticking down on the right side, whereas this one, that post sticking down is on the left side. So I'm gonna have to go find one of these. All right, I took the sensor back to Advanced Auto Parts, and we were able to go over to AutoZone and pick up the correct sensor, and it has the same tabs on the inside as I mentioned earlier. Nice thing is they give you a little bit of grease or lubricant to put on, and you put that on the O-ring before you slip it in, and it should help it go in. So I know it's hard to film putting this all back in, but I'm gonna get that back in and hook things up, and we'll see if it works. So I was able to come in from the side with the extensions and push on the outer portion of the sensor, and it slid in, and then I had to reach my arm up and around and on top of the starter and get the plug in it. So at this point I just have to get the starter back in position and get the bolts tightened up, and we'll see if it works. Okay, everything's back in. Let's see if we can get it to start. That's not cool. All right, gang, I made it up to Pennsylvania, as you know, and I traveled to Ohio to get some parts for the Henry project. And currently, I'm at a property that belongs to my niece and her husband. You may know him as Nick Pixel TV, and this is his gridside property. Now, this is a pretty nice piece of property. There was a building here that was actually like a ice cream store at one time, and I think there was some other business here, but let me let Nick tell you about it.
Am I in there?
You're in there.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Staying healthy and safe as always. Welcome to our gridside property. We were just hanging out, Barry made it up. I was able to help him out. We saved the Studebaker motor and a couple odds and ends, and fortunately we have the space now to play. We're getting ready to, I just cleared out all this land right now, which is a tiny portion of it, but we want to move. We have a toy hauler over here, and of course, you guys know I'm into classics too. I have the old '78 Ford. You'll
yeah,
that's
a really cool truck. If you haven't seen it, you know, go check out his channel to get a look at that truck. I bought that what 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 now.
Maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I remember you asked me about it, and
Yep.
I came up and.
I always call Barry when it comes down to automotive things. I'm into the classic stuff as well, and it took me probably 4 years to find a vehicle like that, and the timing, you know, is never right. It's one of those things where you always say in your head, you know, I grew up in a truck like that, so you always say in your head, and you're like, if I ever could do it, I just want to make it happen. And the opportunity came. It wasn't the perfect timing, but you got to jump on those things, and they move quick. So we have the trucks out here, and we brought the motor up, and we set that back here, and had a machine in here, so it's easy to move around. I wanted to save that for him, and we have, you see the motor and the trailer behind us.
Yeah, the story is, as many of you know, I bought my brother's Studebaker from an auction, and part of the process was another auction at our old property we had at the junkyard, and there was an engine and transmission and a supercharger up there, and so I wasn't able to get up here and get with get the parts. So Nick and a family friend loaded it up and brought it and got it out of there. So it had to be gone in a certain period of time, and I'm just now getting up here to get these parts. So I really do appreciate Nick's help. You can see the trailer sitting there. We had his neighbor come over with his little tractor and help us load it up this morning. That was kind of a fun adventure. But anyway, it's been a good trip, and I'm looking forward to getting back to Georgia and making some more videos. And Nick, I know you've got some stuff coming up. You were talking about doing a car show tomorrow or something?
Yeah, we have a car show tomorrow. I might even clean the Ford and take it. Who knows? But you know, take the golf cart and we'll get some videos there. But I got videos here. We got tons of content on the way. You know, Barry and I will probably do some things as we move forward. The idea is to get all the toy hauler and everything off the road for now. So I just wanted to clear enough area to get everything off the road and get back in and set up like a little camp for the time being. And you know, we have power, so we're doing a little bit of, like, I'd call it homesteading. We call it a grid side because it's kind of like we could be on the grid or we could be off the grid. So it's like we're right beside the grid. So that's where that storyline came in. But ideas that relates to what Barry does is we want to build a shop. So we want to build a garage, probably like 80 by 100 building back here, have a lift, have a house, and really, I mean, really have a place to work out of. So that's the storyline, and that's kind of our mission and our goal as a family. And it's a place for my kid to play and my wife and I to come out and have fun just as a family. And it's turned out pretty good so far.
Now, you said there's actually an old coal mine down in that valley that's part of the property?
So there's an interesting story there. Yeah, there's a coal mine, a deep mine down under the hillside in the back corner. And there's an old Ford Model A engine apparently that ran the generator for all the lighting in the mine. That's still there. The transmission's there. Like the shaker, they call it a shaker, where they would drop it in there. There's a big mound of, I guess it's coal and dirt, but there's a big mound. It's really neat, and I definitely want to do a little bit of history there and show that. But there's supposed to be 2 engines back there. The transmission and everything for the shakers there, and the old railroad carts and things like that. So we have to get back there. It's snake season right now, so we got to clear that out, and God knows what you're going to find.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. I mean, we have 2 streams on the property, which is nice. 2 wells, electrical, and I just got this all cleared out. So we got some burning to do and chainsaw stuff. We got a sawmill coming. It's just exciting. It's exciting stuff, but we need to have a shop. I got some things I want to do. I'm keeping the Ford as original as I can, but we have to do that. We got some other things we want to work on, and if anybody knows any Power Stroke 7.3 old school F350s at a good price, that'd be cool too. Farm truck.
Yeah.
But no, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, being here with Barry and being able to help him out and do that. He even asked me what he owed me. I said, nothing. This is what we do.
Hey, that's cool too. I appreciate that so much. And this has been a good trip. I'm looking forward to again getting back to Georgia, getting back to work on the Mustang. But I'm so happy to have the Studebaker parts, the engine, all of this stuff, and we'll see what I can do with some of it. So.
And we'll have him back up here soon. We'll have him. He's welcome anytime.
All right. Catch you later. So we made a visit up here to what was left of the junkyard, and it's all overgrown. Not surprised. This is the house that I grew up in, and back then it was a lot different. That house was actually not vinyl sided. It had asbestos shingles on it, but years later, my dad worked on it, my brother worked on it, and so this big window up front here was one that my dad salvaged from some sort of construction project he was on. So it's a great big heavy-duty window. This used to have a front porch on it before he closed it all in and made it like this. And then of course we have the garage over here. My dad laid all the block for this garage on this side over here. This section wasn't attached at that point, and there was nothing up above, but all this, you can see the line. I know the wind is not helping me at all here, but you can see this line right here. That was the end of the wall, I believe, or actually it came over to this one. But anyway, so my dad put all this in here. Oh, that's what it was. I take that. This was the end of the garage, and you can see the concrete header up above. So the original door opening was this line, It had a big door here in the middle, and later on my brother put in this block to make it smaller so that he could put in this smaller door. But lots and lots of stuff happened in this garage, and of course it's all gone now. I don't know if we'll be able to go in there and look around or not. I'll be able to show the inside very much. But yeah, my dad built this whole garage. He was a heavy construction carpenter as well, so he laid all the block and everything to get this together. But all this over here was all junkyard all the way up to that top tree line, and of course it's all overgrown. There used to be a road that went up right here that we could go up and unload cars and do different things, and there was a road at the other end as well. But yeah, this is the old place now. From what they're telling me, they're gonna knock the house down, and I don't know if they're gonna knock down the garage or not. I sure hope not, or what they're gonna do with that upper section. But at this point, that's what they're gonna do, is knock the house down so nobody can be in there. But we're gonna try to look around and maybe shoot a little video inside to see how that goes. But yeah, it's sad. So we made it back from our trip, and I'm going to give you some more details about the stuff that I brought back with me, but I want to talk about something that happened on our trip. Now, whenever we do travel, we try to prepare for everything. I know I take a jack with me, I take antifreeze, I take tools, I take oil, I take transmission fluid, because you never know, right? Well, we were about 15 miles from our destination, and we were running out of gas. We were on E, and we had to pull over and get some gas. So that turned into a bit of a fiasco, and we found a place that it was a small gas station, and we pulled in, and there was a vehicle at the pump, and I shut the Suburban off, thinking I'm out of gas, and the vehicle in front of us started up, pulled away, and I went to start the Suburban, and it wouldn't start, and I thought, oh my gosh, we actually did run out of gas. So I was able to stretch the gas hose to the filler neck, and was able to pump in $20 worth of gas, enough to get us to where we wanted to be. But the Suburban was starting, but it started really weird. Now, I don't know what caused this to happen exactly, but as it turns out, it was the crank position sensor. So I attempted to fix it. I went to Advanced Auto Parts, had them scan it to make sure that's what it was. I didn't have my scan tool with me. But we go to Advanced Auto Parts, they scan it, they see, yeah, this is what it is, and I'm thinking, well, if we clear the code, maybe that'll take care of it, maybe it was an anomaly. So we attempt to clear the code, didn't matter, it came right back. So that led me to part 2 of that, was getting a new crank position sensor. So after swapping out the crank position sensor, and of course it didn't fix it, my brother-in-law had a friend who owns Sharky's Sales and Service near us, or near where they live. His name is Mike, and they're good friends. He came by with a Snap-on Zeus scanning tool, and the vehicle, he couldn't fix it. The problem was, I believe, that the sensor would not register to the vehicle. Like when he put it on and did his scan tool, and I wish I would have filmed some of this, it never registered. The tachometer never moved, and it became quite a problem. So the difficulty is, what do you do? So I put the crank sensor back in, and it ran, but it started weird and it ran a little bit weird. But we did manage to drive all the way back to Georgia, and I will say this, it took more gas coming back than it probably should have. I think on the last leg we registered 12.5 miles per gallon. And that's with just a trailer with an engine on the back of it. That wasn't even, to me, that much. So overall, we covered a little over 2,000 miles in this trip. And let me show you some of the stuff that I brought back with me. So when we made this trip, I had taken my cherry picker just in case I needed to lift that engine up. Thankfully, my niece's neighbor had a small tractor, and we were able to lift this up high enough and actually back the trailer under it and get it on. This is a very heavy combination. That's a big 4-speed transmission out of a heavy-duty truck, and my brother had rigged this up with a transfer case behind that
that was out of a Ford. And so this was in his Studebaker 4x4 that he had built. I do not know the history of this engine otherwise. I don't know if it's any good, or if it'll ever be usable, or if I'll even use it. I'll probably part with the 4-speed because obviously I have no use for that. And you can see he custom made his own shifter for going in that truck. So as it is, this is really probably of no use to me, but it was part of the auction. So let me show you what else I got that was in the auction. And I had mentioned in the other video that I had picked up the supercharger. Well, here it is. And what's unique about these superchargers is they're interconnected to the water pump. I know I got this upside down. This thing is very heavy. Turn it around here. So there is the supercharger. Apparently it's hard to find some of these components, like this idler pulley, and you have to have the water pump to make it all work. The problem I'm going to have is there's several other pieces that go to this that I don't have, and there's an air box that sits on top of the engine that is not with it. That air box is where the ducting, there's a hose back here, and it would all push into the air box and the carburetor, and I don't have that stuff. So odds are I'm not going to be able to use this, and I may end up selling it anyway. Along with that, there was some other stuff that came with the auction. I'll show you some of that as well. But at this point, I have another engine. I just don't know what I'm going to do with it. So I wanted to show you this stuff. This is why I drove up to Ohio, was to get these NOS fenders. They've never been attached to the car or any car, so that's fantastic. He also had some bumpers. Now, he takes these bumpers, he gets them for like 20 bucks. He'll get them re-chromed, fix them all up, get them re-chromed, and he sells them for like $3.75. I said, I don't know that I want to have perfect bumpers on this car because I don't know how far I'm going to go with it. So he sold me these bumpers with bumper guards for 20 bucks a piece. I can't beat that at all. Other than that, I ended up getting this suitcase, was part of the auction as well. Turns out there's a bunch of like owner's manuals and just random stuff in there that probably doesn't matter much, but I'll have to figure out something to do with that. The other thing that when I went up to the junkyard property, and was able to go inside and look around, and remarkably enough, I couldn't believe this, all of these Hollander interchange manuals, which we used for years at the junkyard, were still there. I guess somebody had bought them, but they abandoned all that stuff. So that was still there. There's a whole bunch of oil filters down in that metal cage. That's actually 2 trays, one on top of the other. But little value of any of that to me. I don't, but I picked up the Hollanders because I remember using those as a kid to research parts. Now, is it worth it to have them? I don't know, but I picked them up anyway. Now, along with the Studebaker parts, I picked up the front valance panel. I call it the valance panel for the Studebaker. And the guy was really nice. I don't know what these would really be worth, but he charged me 10 bucks for this thing. I'm like, I was ready to give him 100 for it because I don't have one. He said 10 bucks. I said sold. Now, I will say this, whenever we went up to the junkyard to look around, we got into the house and we were looking at things, and I found a couple of magazines. Actually, there was a lot of magazines, but this is a Popular Science from May of '64, and it says Dan Gurney test Ford's new sports car. How hot is the Mustang? That's pretty cool. And then this one, June of '66, Mechanics Illustrated, and that is on what would be the Panther that became the Camaro. So those two I grabbed because they're pretty cool. And then I saw this. Believe it or not, this was my brother's chemistry set, Gilbert Chemcraft, whatever. And it was sitting open, and I'm not going to open it up, but all of the components, the chemicals, all the stuff was inside, the manual, all that stuff. I said, that's coming home with me, even if it just goes on the shelf. Speaking of shelf, this is one of the things that I really wanted to get from the junkyard. So the history on this, I can post some pictures. This was hanging in the garage, and when I was a kid, I don't know how old, 5 or 6 or 7, I don't remember, my brother had written up here on this shelf, you can probably read it, Barry is a dummy. So when I got to be old enough and I could reach the shelf, I wrote, years later, Henry is a dummy too. If you notice, I actually did two, T-O-O. So I don't have any use for the shelf. I just want it because of what is written on there. That is a direct connection to me and my brother. And I'm going to have to figure out if I can maybe find a place on the wall somewhere that I can mount that, and maybe I'll put in the Hollander manuals. I might put in the chemistry set that was his, and then over here on this side, I've shown this before, that was his Tonka truck that I have. So maybe I'll make a display with all of those items, and you know, just find a place to put it, which I'm sure I can. I don't know where yet. There's not a lot of room left on the walls, but yeah. I'm happy to have those pieces. Along with that, let me show you something else. I know I talked about it before, and we got some. These are gobs. I've mentioned these in my live streams. This is the famous gobs that I've talked about, and we have a couple of them. You can order these apparently online. I don't know what the bakery name is. I know it used to be Yost, Y-O-S-T. But yeah, you can actually order these online. You can see it's got a filling on the inside, and I've been torturing my wife by not letting her open these yet because I wanted to make this video. Another thing we got is up in that area there is a candy company called O'Shea's. Okay, let me tell you, this chocolate is awesome. I get peanut butter meltaways. My wife likes the cordial cherry things. There's, if you can read that, I don't know if the reflection is good or bad or not. I can't tell for sure. But that is the company. So if you're interested in getting some really good chocolate, 11, I guess it's 18 Solomon Street, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, 15902. And, oh, apparently they have a website, OSheasCandies.com. It's down at the bottom, O-S-H-E-A-S candies.com. So, some of our favorites. Well, it was good to get away and spend some time with family, go pick up Studebaker parts. I got to hang out with a buddy of mine from high school that I haven't seen in about 18 years, I think, 16, 18 years, something like that. We got to catch up for a few hours. He lives in Ohio, so I was able to hang out with him, which was fantastic. Again, we hung out with our families and got to go up and see the junkyard one more time. It was actually kind of depressing in a way. Obviously, everything's overgrown. There's nobody there. There's no life there, which is, you know, kind of frustrating. One other thing. Let me show you this. I picked these up because this is a pair of gloves that has been hanging on the outside of the garage for quite some time. These were my brother's, and I'm not going to do anything with them but hang them on the wall. These were something he wore, you know, wore gloves whenever he was tearing stuff apart and different things, and you can see he's actually worn through the holes, or, you know, in the fingers. So I picked these up as well, and they're just going to hang on the wall. But overall, it was a great trip. It took, oh gosh, 3 tanks of gas, I think, to get back, and we only traveled 730 miles or something like that. Well, it didn't take 3 full tanks. It probably took 2.5 tanks anyway. But yeah, I'm glad we're back, and now we got to get back on the Mustang project. So again, thank you for watching. If you would, leave a comment and a thumbs up, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.